Hi guys, welcome back to my second video. This one will be going or discussing the actual magazines that you receive from deagostini, building the Sovereign of the Seas. It's the HMS Sovereign of the Seas. So it's the largest warship of the 17th century. So in issue 1, obviously you get the magazine, which is just basically tells you what you actually get. Within that you also get a large pull-out, so it's a 1/84th scale model, so that just gives you all the details, a bit of history, and then a large drawing of, or a large picture of the Sovereign of the Seas once it's completed. So it's good for reference as well if you ever need to see that, which is always something to good as a backup, just to make sure that you are doing it right. You can always refer to the that picture. In the first magazine, you just basically get a history of the dockyards, where I believe it's where the Sovereign of the Seas was built, the first one, and then you get some expert advice. You get a section on expert advice for building various parts. The first one would say, it mentions getting started with a workspace, and it will give you instructions how to build your own workspace, and what sort of dimensions of wood you want. So it is always useful if you have that workspace, you can keep it clear, and you know where everything is, so that is useful if you want to do that. So in issue 1, what we do is we get the magazine, you get the parts, so that includes the false keel for the bow section, you get the forward bulkhead, which is this part here, and then you will get some formers here and here. So these are going to be forming the actual curve of the front of the section of the boat. You get some wire, some silver wire, and then you also get some thread. You also get a cannon kit, and in the section in the first thing, it starts telling you how to make the cannons. Personally, I don't like to build the cannons until they're needed, just like everything else. Don't build it until you're actually required to need it and put it in place. So I will leave the cannons in the packet, won't open them, and then I'll just do them all at one point. But as I say, in the magazine it will start how to do the bow formers, what you're required to do, and then the instructions for the cannon, how to build that up, if you want to do that. It is preference, but as I said, I prefer to do them all at the same time, and only when they're needed, because once they're built up, you're having to store something that's built up, and if there's a load of them, it's taking up space, which in a storage box, which could be used for something else. So I put those to one side and build them up at a later point. Okay, so in issue number 2, this one is, again, it's the dockyards. It tells you about the same dockyards, a bit more information in regards to that. It gives you a little diagram. Somebody's actually done the diagram with all the little people in there as well, as it's being diorama, I think it's called, I can't remember. And then it goes on to making your jig, which you will be needing to hold the boat together as you're building it. So the jigs are basically something just to support the keel as you're fitting in the frames and the boat in general, really. So this one, as I mentioned in the first episode, that is one of the jigs that you can use. So you put the keel in, and it's just to keep everything in one place as you are using it. I have a jig which I'll show you what I'll be using at a later point when we actually do start the build, after this magazine, or after this episode we'll start the building. So, but as I say, episode in magazine 2, that will give you how to do the front part and the back part of the jig, and what you will need to make them. So it gives you all an in-depth guide of how to use the jig. So what do you get in magazine 2? So in magazine 2 you get some frames. So you got rib frame 5 and 6, those two there, and then you also get the rib frames, which, or these sections here, will fit into that, so it gives you the height that you need for each of those frames. You also get some some thread, which is I believe it's a brown thread, 0.6 millimeters, and then you also get a second cannon, which again will be put to one side and built up at a later date. With the threads as well, you are going to be getting a number of different size threads. So they'll go from 0.25 all the way up to maybe 0.8 or 1 millimeter for the different types of the rigging. So what we'll do is we'll also discuss making something so all the threads can be put together, so you know which size is which when you're coming to using them, because they look very similar. You do want to get the right thread for the right part of the build. So we can put a little, almost like a little jig together for your threads, so you know that all the 0.6s will go onto one area, or the 0.8s will go onto another. But we'll do that at a later point as well. So that's issue 2. Issue number 3. So what do you get in issue number 3? So in the magazine itself, it's just basically a history of the age of sail. It gives you a couple of other ships as well that they do talk about in relation to the history. And it also tells you about the various boats. In this instance, it's a 47 ship of the line, so it's a 47 gun ship of the line. Gives you a few basically facts about those, and then it carries on with the assembly of the jig. So this is where you would be getting the supports down the middle of the jig to support the keel either side. That will ensure that it's not going to move as you start putting in the frames. So I'll show my jig later that I'll be using in relation to the build. The one that I've bought has been bought off Amazon, and it's pretty impressive. Virtually what you're going to be doing if you're doing your self build of the jig. You'll also be getting in number 3, so you'll be getting some more section of the keel. You'll be getting some more rib frame, number 7, and 2 side pieces for it. You have some more bow formers, which will go onto the front of the boat, on the bow. And then you will also be getting this here, there, it's called a mast housing. That will fit onto the keel, and when you put the mast in, once it's all ready, that will actually sit into that hole, so it'll form like a little X on the bottom of the keel. So it's just somewhere to support the mast, to stop the mast from moving, and you make sure that the mast is centralised based on that. You'll also be getting some more thread, which is a black thread, and then this is a little bit, it's as if you're building your own jig. This is like a temporary support, so it's only a temporary part, but as I say, that is just to support the model as you're actually using it. You're getting an anchor, which again, like the cannons, I won't be making up straight away. They will be made at a later point, and then you'll be getting some wood and a little ring to complete the anchor. But as I said, it does explain in the model how to make the anchor up with all the stock, etc. So it gives you all your measurements that you required in relation to building up the anchor. As I say, they will all be done together. I believe there's 4 anchors on this. No, 2 anchors maybe on this. No, 4 anchors. So all 4 anchors will be done at the same time and then fitted as required. So that is issue number 3. Moving on to issue number 4. This is issue number 4 for the Sovereign of the Seas. So again, a bit of history of the early going models, etc. More parts of the ship of the line, 74 gun 1. It's nice information actually. And then also it then goes on to the movable supports to the jig. These parts, as it says, are movable, so you can actually ensure that they're all at a right angle, and the frames are at a perfect right angle to your keel, because the last thing we want to do is twist those. So the support that it's telling you to make will show you how to make that, and ensure that your frames are at perfect right angles all the time. It also does recommend how to build a small spirit level, so you get the top of the frames level as well. So you need the frames at a right angle to the keel, but you also need them level along the top. That is to ensure that one side's not lower than the other when the model's being built. What you get in your kit this time, so you get some more frames, so 13 and 15 I believe. So more frames there, and the bits to make the frames up to increase the sizes for them. And then you also get some more bow formers in there, so as I say, to complete the formation of the bow. So the bow will be formed over as a few sections, or a few of the episodes, so that will tell you how to move them in. Also gives you instructions to carry on with the cannons, making the blocks for the cannons at a later point. You will get the blocks within the cannons, so they're very, very small. That's why I prefer to not open anything, because if you start losing them, they're a bit of a nightmare to try and find. But it will give you an indication of how to make the blocks up ready for when you're doing it. So issue number 5. Issue number 5. So this one will again give you some more history, a few more boats, a few more nice little images, what models people have made. So, and then in issue number 5, a very small one actually, so parts, it will say, it does give you an idea for making a model stand for your boat, which can be done at a later point. So it will give you in the masterclass, it will give you how you want to display it at a later date. So, and that's the display stand, because they can vary, it's horses for courses really. I bought the actual proper stand for it, which we'll show you towards the end of the project. So in this one, you get the more of the keel, false keel, another section. You also get another section, another one of the rib frames, and also the supports which go along with it. You also then get another mast housing, which will most probably be either the main mast or any of the 3 masts really. So that'll be another mast housing which will need to go on fitted. And then you also get 2 keel supports. So these will fit either side of the keel where the joins are. That will ensure that it doesn't flex too much, because the wood is very thin, so this is extra support where the keels are joined together. So what you want to do is put them in, and as I say, go from there. It also gives you a bit more information of putting the blocks to the cannons. Again, we won't be doing that until later on, but we will always go back to these and follow the instructions in regards to that. So they are the first 5 issues of the build. With the deagostini magazines, you also do get the binders, the Sovereign of the Sea binders. So once you get each of your magazines, they can go in into the binder, at least the safe, and you can just refer to them as and when you needed. It's very nice. After you've finished the model, these are also good for a bit of information as well on the ships as well, so it's a nice little read for the other bits of information. So what we're going to do next, in the next episode, we're going to actually start the laying down of the keel. Because we've got all the bits here, we can do the keel in one go. So first of all, we'll do the keel, and then we'll start looking at the frames, of what you need to do with the frames. This is preference. You can either work as you go along, or you can save sections up and then do them in one go, so you're not having to stop, so you get it all done and glued ready for the next sections. So thank you guys. As always, if you like this video, please subscribe and please press the like. Press the bell notification if you want to be notified when more episodes are available. Thank you, and take care and have a good week.